Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. We're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got director Traci Hayes with me. So welcome, Traci.
Good morning. Hello. Thank you.
It is a good morning for you. It's like 8:00 where you are.
Yes.
Yeah, that's an early morning interview.
Hey, I'm chipper.
I accidentally set up an interview with someone in Australia one time, and it was about 4:00 in the morning, but they showed up, and I just didn't realize they were in Australia, and I asked them, I was like, why didn't you just say? I'd have changed it. But they were more awake than I was. And I was like, that's pretty impressive at 4:00 in the morning.
I love
that. So Traci, let's start this way. Tell me a little bit about what got you into the entertainment business. Obviously, not an easy business to go into. So why'd you?
No. It's interesting when you think about filmmaking and the film business. It's such a every story. Everyone has their own story and how they get in and how they find their way. And no one in my family was a filmmaker, so I didn't even really understand what filmmaking or what people did behind a camera until I'm in high school. But it's funny how you look back at your life and you see the breadcrumbs that kind of led up to that
Yep.
realization. So for me, I was a very creative kid. I'm dyslexic, so I would look at like photos in the books to sort of figure out the stories. So I kind of attribute that was sort of the seed, so to speak, of where it all began. And then I just started, I would write my own plays with my siblings and put them into my own shows and movies. I would say when I was in high school, I saw the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
there was a DVD featurette for all those people that know what DVDs are.
yeah, and it was one of the first really expansive, behind the scenes type of footage that we've had, and it was so good. So I kind of can understand why that would spark something in you.
Yeah, I mean, and it was just a realization that, oh, this is what people did, and that you could make a living, and it was a job, and I had no idea. And I made little movies growing up, but but that was the pieces started to fit together once
Yeah.
I saw that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's pretty that's pretty great. And there's a couple things with creative people, especially people in the entertainment business. Dyslexia seems to be fairly common, which is kind of interesting how our brains
Yeah.
work, in that it obviously helps, the way your brain is, it helps in certain situations, but then you're kind of stuck with this
Yeah.
this issue that you got to figure a way around. But it amazes. It's kind of similar to, I didn't realize there was so many introverts working in the entertainment business, but there's a ton of them.
Oh, yeah.
That
Yeah, I can
surprised me.
absolutely see that. Yeah.
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 Yeah, but so that
hmm
kind of interesting that maybe there's something there, that there's a reason that's connected, that your brain kind of works that way, so you get the benefits of it. But you're like, well, we don't want to make it too easy on you, so you got to work around.
I know. I mean, it's amazing because, I can walk into a space or I can read a script and I actually see the movie. I can see the movie.
Yeah.
And I joke, my parents joke around with me. It's like, they're like, we have no idea. Like, I walk into a room and they're like, we don't, it is a very, it's not something I necessarily think you can learn. I just think in regards to that dyslexia and how maybe that, to your point, helps give you a little edge somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's obviously hasn't hindered you. I'm sure it was difficult to kind of figure that out, but it, like with me, I can't see what something's going to be. I have trouble with
Mm,
that. So if you show me, let's say, like an empty space, like when we were opening the studio, you show me a space, I'm like, well, that seems like we've got enough space for what we need, but I couldn't imagine actually what it was going to look like. I have trouble with that. So I can see if you've got the ability with film to kind of see the end product, and that's a huge advantage. Most of us don't have
yeah,
it.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty good. How's it with how are you with memory? I mean, do you see stuff kind of like the photo type of memory, or is it more just like the rest of us, we just is what it is?
No, I mean, not dyslexia just means it's harder for me to process. Like
Yeah.
for me, I know dyslexia it actually does mean something slightly different depending on how severe it is. For me, it's just I'll mix up words and then I have a harder time. I have a slower time processing the information.
Yeah, it just takes a little
Um,
to get through it.
yeah, so I use like highlighters to like remember things. I do have a hard time remembering like dates and phone numbers and names, but I think for
We
me,
all do
yes, it's
though.
like dyslexia. It's so funny because it definitely I couldn't read till I was 10, and so I thought it was like I was the weirdo. I had to wear these like weird rose-colored glasses so my eyes didn't strain, and I thought I was a weird kid. But then, now as an adult, I look at that and go, no, that's that that weakness or something that you would consider that is actually my greatest strength, and
That's right.
that's what has allowed me as a filmmaker to be able to see in a way that and then I have to then communicate to folks maybe who don't have that ability, and that is I am that kind of bridge. I mean, that is part of my
Yeah.
job. So
Yeah. I kind of love that. That's wait. So
yeah.
when you started making films, or did you go the normal progression? So you start out with like the shorts or the short films, and then move up to where you're doing an entire film.
Yeah, I mean, that was my trajectory, and I think I did go the more traditional route. I did go to film school, so I when it came time to go to college, I applied to a number of schools, and ultimately ended up at Chapman University. It's funny, I actually didn't get in the first time I applied. And it's kind of one of those things I say because it's like I just didn't take no for an answer because I really wanted to go,
Yeah.
and I love their film program, and they just it felt like it fit with what I want, a smaller school, and you could learn, but they're very they've become such an incredible force. And so I applied to Chapman and went to film school, and I directed 3 short films in college.
Yeah.
I met some a writer, and you meet your cinematographer, you meet all these people, your peers. So I got to meet some incredible people, had, so many wonderful mentors who I'm still
That's
friends with to
awesome.
this day. And it took, my journey, it took time to, making short films, in my opinion, is just as difficult as making a feature. It's just you're shooting for more days. You still have to prep the film. You still have to, you're doing all the same thing. You're just doing less of it,
That's
it's
right.
not,
That's right.
and obviously when you're dealing with a studio versus an independent film, that's very different, obviously.
Sure.
But,
Sure.
um, but my trajectory, I spent a decade after film school production designing as my way of staying in the business, because I didn't want to have a 9 to 5 job
Right.
after film school. The reality was I had to pay rent and make a living and live in Southern California. And as most
Not
people know,
easy.
California is not cheap. We pay for the sunshine. We like to joke, we pay for the sunshine tax, which is very true.
It
So
makes it a little
yeah,
better actually if you look at it that way, because it is beautiful there most of the time.
yeah, it is. Although it's been raining weirdly a lot this year.
I know it's so
Um,
weird seeing you guys get rain there.
no one knows how to drive. It's just like, oh, yeah. So, I spent a decade, I was like, I want to be in the business. I want to watch and learn on set. I want to be a part of the decision-making process and contribute, creatively. And I had an incredible mentor in college named Larry Paul, who is a production designer you may know his films that he designed, such as Blade Runner and Back to the Future
Oh,
and
those
Romancing
little
the
ones.
Stone, those little movies. um,
Are you surprised
and
they haven't remade Romancing the Stone yet?
I'm not surprised. I hope they don't.
I hope they
It's
don't either. It's been like 40 years.
it's
It
such a good movie. Robert Zemeckis is such an incredible filmmaker, and I I'm glad they've left his movies alone.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but yeah. So Larry Paul was my production design mentor, and I found my sort of niche, and was able to just start production designing right out of college, and was able to make a living. Got into the local
That's
800
awesome.
union as an art director. So I production designed like 30 features, a lot of
Well, I saw you
television.
did work on like the Girls Detective Agency.
Yeah, Dead Girls Detective Agency. I worked with Lucy Hale on Nice Girl Like You, and Michael Shannon and Kate Hudson on a feature called Little White Lie. Yeah, I did a lot of bigger shows, independent stuff. But I was
If
also directing during that time as
if
well.
you're
So
if you're an art director, what does that mean? What's the difference in that and a production like person? Is it the same? Or if you're
no, we all kind of have our own jobs, depending
yeah.
on if you start to zoom out and look at it's like a circus, really. It's a circus, and we all have our own. It's like Church of Soleil, right? We have the performers, everybody that works backstage. um an art director, a production designer, an art director and a production designer, what they're in charge of, really, the simplest way I can put it is the visual look of a movie.
Right.
So they're with the collaboration of the director, and they're in charge of building the set, working with a location manager to find the right location. What's going to go in the set, what color is the wall, are we set rendering it, is it a spaceship, whatever the show might or movie might call for. um it's a huge job because they're in charge of an
Yeah.
entire department, and there's so much that goes into it. So it makes sense for me, I think, as a very creatively, visually driven, forward thinking, like, visual filmmaker. It made
Yeah.
sense to me now, looking back, why I was so good at production design, and like why it came so easily to me, because I am a visual learner. And
Well, that
so,
probably helps you quite a bit as a director.
oh, immensely. Yeah, I really pride myself on the way the visual language of the films that I make, and I hope that over time it's like that's what becomes my style ultimately.
Yeah.
And people hopefully see that in the work and how I frame shots and compose the world, with the cinematographer, obviously. But I think, yeah, there's definitely, your point earlier about the process of getting to that first bigger format
Yeah.
feature film. That process did for me took 12 years from, finishing film school, working my butt off
That's a long
as a
time.
production designer. It took a long time. And I think, and everyone has their own path. And I think it's, I thought by a certain age, I'd be like, oh, I'll be directing my first movie. And I was a couple years off. But you know what? I think it's, what ultimately led me to direct my first feature was through production design, because I had production designed for this one company, 6 movies. And they gave me the opportunity to direct a short film. This was at the height of COVID. So I'm sure, I don't know, it was insane trying to work.
Yeah, I don't know how anything got done. It was, and not a ton did, but the stuff that did, it was pretty impressive because there were so many restrictions that year.
It was bananas. It was like working on Mars. It was so weird. It was like so I made the short film. It was like a little rom comedy for this company called Passion Flicks, and then ultimately they're like, we feel like you're ready to do. We'd love to give you your first feature. And so it was that relationship
How
of
exciting.
trust, and they saw that the success of the short that did really well on their platform, because I do short form and long form content on their platform. And I hadn't really done comedy before that. All the work I had done prior to that was more dramatic. So they wanted to see if I could, do comedy. And I had so much fun. And for the last 4 years, I've just been directing comedy. So it's been a journey. It's been a wild ride, but that just putting my head down, getting just really working my butt off, and being diligent and working
It's
hard.
impressive that you stuck with it long enough to get to that point. That's a long time. A lot of people have been like, that's not going to happen. But
you look at actors' stories. Bryan Cranston didn't get his first leading role till he was in his 50s. So I think, certain people, their success comes and it maybe looks differently than they had thought. And so I always encourage people, especially if they're starting, later in life, they find a new dream, or, it's not coming as fast, because I'm an impatient person. I'm like, I don't want to wait around. It's just like everyone's path looks different, and it's okay if it's not, a lot of it is out of your control. I mean, that's just the honest truth. And a lot of it, there's a lot you can do to put yourself in a position to be ready when you get that phone call. There's so much self-learning and putting yourself in positions to learn.
Well, and that's the key, right? It's just putting yourself in the position so you're ready when the opportunity shows up.
That people hear that again. That is the key. That is 100% such good advice. And so that is what we always need to remember. 100%.
Well, and that's where we screw it up usually. We're really good at preparing for whatever, but then we just kind of ignore the opportunities when they come up, mostly because it's scary. You're putting yourself out there if you're taking the opportunity, so it's kind of scary. So we hesitate. But that's what, if you're really trying to be successful in whatever you're doing, you have to put yourself in the position to be ready when the opportunity comes.
And then it's about walking through your fear and being and know. I think I learn more about myself as a filmmaker when I make a mistake, or when I fail, or when I do something that I'm like, oh, I can learn from that mistake. Because I think, if everything goes well, you'll never learn anything about yourself through that experience. So it's like, I mean,
yeah, it's hard to grow if everything's just good all the time.
I think but that's why people, a lot of it is getting out of your own way. That was something I learned, and it's helped once I figured that out. It's been, I've been able to now look back and see where I am now, and it's because I gave myself permission, frankly. It's like knowing you're capable and giving yourself that pep talk.
Well, and it's important because it's anytime you're doing something that's difficult, you need those little internal pep talks, or it could go off the rails at any point in the process.
I mean, it's not like I figured it out, I'm not like, oh, I've arrived and like I've learned everything there is to learn. It's like there's so much. I mean, it's like every day I'm making move. Every day there's just like so many problems to solve.
I mean,
Um,
at any point did you consider stepping in front of the camera, or has it always been behind the scenes?
when I was a kid, like I did some musical theater, but I mean that was just, I think, being, creatively as a kid. No, I mean that. But once I figured out that film was my interest, I never thought about putting myself in front of a camera. It was always, I was I was actually, you know, 15 years old. I was like, oh, I want to direct movies. It wasn't like, oh, I'll go to film school and figure it out and see
Yeah.
what I like to do. I was, I just knew, I think there's something um just deep down inside that I was like, oh, that's what that was about. That's what I want to do.
What
So I
what's
just
it?
stuck with it.
What was it like the first time you got a feature completed and actually got to see it on screen? It's a little different than watching like a short just on a laptop or something. What was that like?
Yeah. Sadly, my first feature came out during COVID, so I did not watch it on a big screen,
Yeah, I
sadly.
suspected that when you said you were doing the show
Yeah,
around that time. So I
I
wondered,
didn't.
you missed out on the red
Yeah,
carpets and everything.
I did. It was very sad.
That is sad.
Yeah, my first feature. Yeah, because it was like
It's a big
we did a
deal.
Zoom. Yeah, I mean, I didn't really get that opportunity until my second feature.
Yeah.
Um, so it was weird. It was bizarre. I mean, I had screened my movies, my shorts on big screens. I went to
Right.
Chinese theater, film festivals. I had done, so I'd seen my movies on a big screen, but they were short form content. It wasn't a feature. Um, and it's I have this like, you know, because of streaming, I'm working right now, but then the flip side of it is, you're like, because of streaming, there's not as many movies going to theaters
Right.
necessarily, and you're like, oh man, that would, as a filmmaker, that is a bit of a romantic idea now, where it's like you hope all your movies you make go to the big screen.
I know, and it just changed. It's only been a few years now, that we're kind of in
Yeah,
this new model where even if it goes to the screen, most of the time it's only there for a few days or maybe a week, and then it's to the streamers.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which is
So I mean,
not terrible as a consumer, although most of us would say we prefer to see things on the bigger screen. It's pretty convenient when you just turn the TV on.
yeah, yeah, and it is. But I think it also depends on the main. Like, you have to know going into it what you're signing yourself up for. I guess. So there's that. You're like, okay,
So
so
your
yeah,
newest, I know you're getting ready to start on another one, but your newest was
yes,
My Bloody Galentine,
hmm,
which came out, I'm thinking probably around Valentine's Day, and it's on Tubi. So which
yes,
I love Tubi because it gives so many independent films, projects, all that, just a space. And there's a lot of good things on Tubi. So I always push that one because it's a great platform. I think you got to put up with a few ads, but that's a small price for the content you're getting, and it's free,
yeah, yes,
which is pretty great.
100%.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so tell me about the movie. What's the movie about? Where'd the idea come from?
My Buddy Galentine is a fun, dark comedy. I attest it. I kind of equate it to um, Scream meets Mean Girls. It's a very campy, very
We like
fun.
campy.
It's so fun. It's so, campy. I'm not, like, I don't watch dark horror movies. I don't care for that
Yeah,
genre. So
same.
I do find it kind of ironic I made a horror movie, kind of. But the kind of horror movie that my mom actually watched and enjoyed, where
Yeah.
it's not really a horror movie. But there's the sort of mechanics of what make a great sort of horror movie, and the whodunit of it all, the clue.
Yeah.
There's aspects of the movie that, if you think about, like Jawbreakers or Heathers or
Oh yeah.
Clue, these movies that, well, obviously came out in a time, just the nostalgicness of those kinds of 80s and 90s movies.
That's
And
what when I was reading the description on it, I was like, it sounds like those movies we loved in the 80s.
and that was very intentional on my part as a filmmaker, with the visual look of the film, and just the style and how we shot it. But it is ultimately a whodunit, kind of Clue-esque movie, and ultimately these three women who were dumped the week before Valentine's Day band together to get revenge on their ex-boyfriends, and what they thought was just a prank, they end up showing up. Some people start dying. We won't give it away, and
Oh,
they start to question
shocker.
their loyalty and who was responsible. But it's a lot of fun. I did not write it. It was a finished script that came to me, and it was an original idea. So it was one of those rare gems that wasn't
Yeah.
based on anything or a book or a comic book or
Yeah,
whatever. It's
that
just
is
an
kind
idea.
of rare anymore. Especially
Mm-hmm.
we're kind of gotten used to everything being based on a graphic novel or a comic book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, there's definitely a built-in fan base. I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but it's nice to have some creative freedom.
We need a little original content.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, for sure.
It
So yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen this movie, but this was one of those campy 80s movies that at the time kind of scared me, but I had the best time watching it. But there was one that came out called April Fool's Day. I don't know if you've
Oh.
ever seen that one, but
Mm-mm,
it's an 80s movie, and that's what it was, just campy. It was like a murder mystery. They were trapped, in like a mansion, kind of like Clue, and you're trying to figure out, I think it was a reunion. They were having like a high school reunion, so you're trying to figure out
okay.
with that. But that's the type of feel that I got from My Bloody Galentine.
Oh, cool. Love that.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah.
it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I always remember that movie because when I turned 16 is when it came out, and me and my friends snuck to go see it. Not
Of
that
course.
we'd have probably been allowed to see the movie, but it was further away than I
Oh.
was currently allowed to drive. So we had that. So then, so I was a nervous kid anyway. So I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. So I was a nervous wreck. So that movie
Oh.
scared the crap out of me, but it was mostly because I was just so nervous. I was like, I'm gonna get in
Oh
so much
no.
trouble, but
Oh
never
no.
did. Never, almost like when you remember those feelings when you're a teenager, you're almost disappointed that you get away with it.
Yeah. The teenage brain makes
It
zero
makes no
sense.
sense.
You're
I know.
like, how does that happen? No, I mean, that's so funny. Yeah, I mean, that was such a fun movie to shoot. We shot that in London, actually.
You shot it in London, really?
Yeah, I was in London. Yeah, it
That's a
was so
nice
fun.
bonus, I think, when you get to travel.
Every movie I've made, I've traveled.
That's pretty great.
It is. I mean, I love it. I had spent, I've spent more time in London than any other country, um, besides obviously the United States. So it was so fun when they said they were going to set it in London. I was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that's pretty great. That's pretty
yeah,
great.
it's a lot of fun.
Do you help out with casting when you're doing a project, or yeah, I
Hmm.
figured you did. Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that process like? Are you casting people, specific to kind of your strengths as a director, or is it totally independent? Does it matter who you're bringing in?
I mean, every actor has their own process, and and obviously you don't really know what that process is unless you talk with them or frankly really work with them. So it comes down to, yeah, when it comes to feature films and casting a film, obviously they hire a casting director who brings their experience and
Right.
relationships and eye for talent with them, and so it is a collaborative process. And because the movies I'm making for are not independently made, they're made for a studio. So I am ultimately working with the studio, and they are signing off on the top, for talent. So it's not like I'm sitting there picking everybody. I mean,
Right.
it is
Right.
a collaborative process. And the goal and hope with every movie is that they pick everyone that you were your first choices. And I've been very fortunate where that has been mostly the case. And so I work with the casting director, and they look at a lot of people, they whittle that down, and I'm looking at these tapes, auditions, and a lot of it is your guts, when you're looking at the actors and what they brought to the role, and oh my god, I never thought of that, or that was such a unique read, or they have such a unique look, or they have such a unique perspective on a character, and a lot of that is really the energy of the person that comes in the room and their tape. And so once I look at all the tapes, I'm taking notes and then figuring out like what I liked or don't like, and then I whittle that list down and I send over my top maybe 5, 10, depending on the role, and then it's a conversation with a production company, and then out of that conversation you whittle that down
My
and you
gosh,
send
that's so much.
then you send the top 3 to the network and they sign off on it.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
long process.
It is.
And I mean, it's a long process that you're basing really on just a little bit of time, or a little bit of information. You're only seeing this person for just a little bit, and you're hoping that the
But
skill
I can,
witness carry over.
but but I can tell within about 30 seconds.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I watch every tape. I know I'm not the kind of person that just I watch every tape, but I know. I mean, I can tell. It just because and of this again, it comes down to instincts and just going, you know, do I believe what they're saying? Are they grounded in their performance? Are they affecting me? Like
Right.
if it's an emotional scene, are they funny? Is it a comedy? I mean, if you cast an actor who's not funny in a comedy, who doesn't have the ability to think on their feet, like that's a problem. Like, and a lot of times when you get to like a lot of these roles, sometimes, people don't audition, it's like offer only. That's the term they use when they're just going out to actors who, when you have more money or more time, you can get, we're talking like like big actors,
Right.
take, but when you're doing something that's on the scale, depending on the budget, like I mean, you always watch tapes depending on what project you're working on, but sometimes you're just going off of someone's resume and work ethic and what they've done before, and calling all your friends up that have worked with them and be like, are they nice people? Are they drama queens or
Yeah, you don't want the jerks on set. Don't want that.
no?
Everybody needs to get along.
No, I have, yeah. I'm like, you know what? Like, life's too short. We're playing make believe. Like, let's ultimately like have fun.
I mean, you would
You
hope
know,
that you get to have a good time.
it's
Ideally,
stressful. It's very
it
stressful at
is.
times. I won't lie. It's very stressful, but it is fun. It's a lot of fun.
I mean,
It
the
has to be.
alternative is doing something that you don't love. So, and if
Yeah,
you look at it that way, yeah, it's hard, but at least you're doing
yeah,
something that you really want to be doing. That's not terrible.
yeah.
Do you tend to use the same actors for different projects like some directors do?
Um, I I definitely, my hope, if I like working with the actor, is always to bring them back. I mean, on the movie in London, that was a unique circumstance because we had to work with local London actors.
Right.
Um, but the movie I've done in the past, the movie I'm doing now, I put a lot of people up that I had worked with before that I liked working with,
Yeah.
and it's ultimately I'm not signing off on like the top 3. Sometimes it comes down to, are they local hire? Do they live? There's so many factors, but yes, I love working with actors more than once, and if I like working with them, like you're bringing, there's a number of actors on this movie I'm doing now that I've worked with before, so I'm very excited. Yeah,
What's the genre that you're working on right now? Is it
it's a
comedy?
thriller.
Oh, it's a
No,
thriller.
it's a dark, very dark thriller. So I'm very excited. Yeah, it's like No Country for Old Men meets Hell or High Water. It's very different than my
I
last
I
movie.
had a feeling though it was going to have some type of Western vibe to it. With,
Yeah,
and those are
yeah.
two great movies.
I mean, yeah, those are, I should, the caveat of those are, that's quite a high bar I've set for myself. So we'll see how that, we'll see how that goes.
No, but I love both of those, so I'll probably love this one as well because that's a fun like subgenre of the thriller genre. I think that kind of I'm not sure
Hmm.
it's like a modern Western.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because it's
Ours
got
is
a
more
little
like
bit of
a,
that cowboy type of feel, but you're more modern day.
hmm, hmm, yeah, yeah. So it's nice. I'm playing a different sandbox this time around.
Yeah, that's
So
exciting.
I'm
That's
very
pretty
excited.
good.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
know you're just getting started on filming, so it'd probably be something we'd look for next year. That
No, it's coming out this year.
Really? I mean,
Yeah.
it's April already.
You're telling me. I it's like the most insane fast moving train. No, I mean we don't have a release date. I to my understanding it'll come out this year at some point.
That's
So
pretty fast.
yeah, I mean it's sort of like TV, and the great thing is the work it's seen. It is obviously what I want more time, of course,
Yeah.
always. Um, but it's a great crash course in conditioning. I feel like I'm conditioning right now.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Because
Yeah,
and once you get through it, then you know you can do it easier next
I've done
time.
it before. I can do it again.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not terrible.
yeah.
Is there a genre that you haven't got to do that you would like to do?
Coming of age.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
haven't done that
that
yet.
also kind of harkens back to the 80s.
Yes, I mean, and I think because I'm a product of that generation, I really, yeah, I mean, I love coming of age. I love drama. I love family drama. I love anything to do with complicated, messy human beings. And I think it's just the curiosity I have about life and how and why humans make the decisions they make. um, so I love coming of age as a genre that it's very close to my heart. And I'm excited to do that next, hopefully. So,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm kind of
yeah.
excited about that for you because that just sounds fun.
Yeah, and it is, as a woman, I do want to see, make content for younger women as well, and like, younger girls, and give them, just, it's like the things I didn't see growing up that I wish I had, and sort of like finding a way to tell those stories, for those people, and obviously everyone can relate. The hope is more people will relate and see the project, but there's certain things I look for when I'm thinking of the project for sure.
Yeah, I kind of like that because the last, let's say, 10 years, things have definitely improved as far as being more inclusive. But what
Mm-hmm.
we haven't
Mm-hmm.
seen yet, what it's really meant is you've had a lot of people that are very creative are now in that space that maybe before were kept out. So we're
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing that, but what we're not seeing yet is the effect that those people doing projects are going to have on the next generations coming.
Oh yeah.
And that's going to be so cool because you're going to have, especially I think with younger women, you're going to have this whole group that maybe they never get into that if what's going on right now doesn't happen, if that makes sense.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
going
I
to be
love
fun.
that.
The next, 10 years, 20 years, we're going to see all this new create. We don't really know what it's going to look like yet. I think that's the best part of what's going on now is what's coming later. And if any.
Mm, I love that. That's a good. I love that perspective. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, Traci,
Yeah.
thank you for taking a little bit of time today.
Oh yeah,
Look
of
forward
course,
to
of
this
course.
one, My Bloody Galentine, and I'll tell you when Brett, who's my son that works on the podcast with me, he watched it because he's braver than I am. But I watched most of it. There was a few spots that I had to kind of cover up. I won't lie, I'm a chicken. But I loved it, and Brett loved it, and I thought
Oh,
that's a good sign for a movie if different generations both enjoy it. And
me
I'm kind of
too.
like
That's
probably
awesome
like
to
your
hear.
mother. I don't really like horror movies. I don't mind being
No.
scared. I just don't like the gore and stuff.
Yeah.
I got through this one. Like I can go back and watch 80s movies now. There's a difference in 80s horror and today's horror.
There absolutely
And,
is,
and
and
it's
that
closer
I
to
feel the
80s.
same way.
Yeah, that was
That yeah, 100% intentional. I appreciate that you saw that because that was something for me. I don't enjoy getting being scared for an entire movie. Like I like tension,
yes.
I like not knowing, but to be scared for an entire film and then the like excessive gore, um, I just find it off-putting.
Austin.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. So
I mean, there's movies where you come out of the theater and it makes you think, or it may bring, it makes you kind of somber. But I don't really like movies where I'm coming out and I'm just upset and it's something that's going to kind of stay with me, and that's with me. If it's too gory, that's what happens. I don't want that.
mm-hmm.
A little tension where I get even some jump scares, something I'm okay with that. Just,
Yeah.
let's not go over the top.
Take it here. Calm down. Take it easy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, so
Yeah.
a couple of things, Traci, before I let you
Yeah.
go. You've got
Yeah.
the new project you're working on now. Anything else that you have upcoming that we can keep an eye out for?
I mean, this next project will be out. I'm doing now will be out on Tubi later this year, and then in terms of what's next after that, I like to say there's multiple irons in the fire, and we'll see which one ultimately is greenlit. Yeah, I'm excited. It's mostly feature length projects I'm attached to. We'll see which one goes first. It's very much as we were talking earlier about, a lot of it's out of your control, but there's a lot I can do. So just having the meetings and the conversations, and I will be back in Europe probably making another movie. I can't say much more about it, but that's the hope for next year. So,
That's not a terrible way to make a living. Bounce.
nope.
Yeah,
No.
that's not too bad. So last thing, Traci, before I let you go,
Yeah.
where can we find you on social media?
It's just my name, actually. I kept trying to keep it straightforward with my social media. It's just Traci TraciHayes.com was my website.
Yep.
Traci Hayes Facebook. Same for my Instagram.
Your website's very well done. Do you handle it
Thank you.
yourself, or do you have somebody to help you with it?
I had a website designer who initially created it and set it up for me,
Mm-hmm.
and then I managed the updates myself.
Yeah, and I know because we do the same with our website. That's the task. I mean, I couldn't set it up. I'm not capable of doing that. But just
I don't know
update
code.
it regularly. That's a trial. You got to really put some effort into keeping it up to date.
I know I'm a little behind, but you know what? That's a great problem to have.
Right.
I am outdated with content because I keep making more. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's not a terrible problem. You're right. That's
not a problem. Yeah.
All right, Traci, hold on one second. The talented Traci Hayes, and the movie is My Bloody Galentine. It's on Tubi right now, so do yourself a favor and check that out. Coming from an admitted chicken is pretty good. It's pretty good. I was able to get through about 98% of it, which is pretty good for me. But it's well written. It's very campy. So if you love camp, it's terrific. It's got some humor in it. It definitely, I think, will give you that kind of 80s nostalgia. So I think you'll enjoy. So check that out, My Bloody Galentine on Tubi. If you're finding us for the first time, thank you so much. So glad that you're here. Love to have your support. There's a couple easy ways that you can do that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Would really appreciate it if you could subscribe. That helps us out so much. Our website's meistercon.com. You can find all of our episodes, audio and video there. I think today we're putting out number 756. So tons of content on there, tons of great guests. So definitely check us out, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. You know, those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to IMDb, imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, you know, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.